A federal judge has issued a sweeping 43-page opinion that signals an extraordinary moment in American jurisprudence. In a detailed ruling, Judge Boasberg of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia found probable cause to believe that President Trump, his administration, and senior officials committed criminal contempt of court by willfully defying explicit orders. The ruling, which addresses the forced removal of Venezuelan immigrants to El Salvador, underscores the judiciary's determination to enforce its mandates and safeguard constitutional guarantees. At its core, the court's decision confronts an administration that, according to the opinion, elected to override the rule of law when it conflicted with political objectives. The dispute centers on earlier court orders prohibiting the removal of certain Venezuelan nationals who had applied for asylum or other immigration relief. Judge Boasberg had enjoined the administration from returning those individuals to El Salvador until their claims could be adjudicated, emphasizing the constitutional right to due process. Despite these directives, the government proceeded with deportations, dispatching aircraft to transport the migrants out of the United States. The judge's opinion recounts multiple instances in which flights already en route to El Salvador were forced to turn back, and additional departures were halted on the tarmac, all in direct conflict with his injunction. These episodes form the factual foundation for the court's conclusion that the administration acted with willful contempt. In laying out his analysis, Judge Boasberg applied the standard for probable cause in criminal contempt proceedings. He determined that the record before him furnished ample evidence to support a finding that the administration knowingly and intentionally violated his orders. The opinion meticulously details the communication between the court and the Department of Homeland Security, the timing of internal directives, and witness statements confirming that senior officials were aware of, yet disregarded, the judicial commands. By securing a probable cause determination, the judge authorizes further steps toward a full contempt trial, a process that could culminate in criminal sanctions if due process findings confirm culpability. Crucially, the probable cause determination is not itself a final adjudication, and thus is not subject to immediate appeal. Under federal procedure, the government may challenge a final contempt judgment following a trial, but it cannot seek appellate review at the preliminary finding stage. In practice, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, the appellate body for Judge Boasberg's court, would consider any post-trial appeals, and ultimately the Supreme Court could entertain petitions if procedural avenues are exhausted. Observers note that the High Court has, in past term, shown a willingness to intervene in executive branch disputes, though the threshold for such intercession remains uncertain. To secure compliance, the opinion outlines a graduated set of enforcement mechanisms. First, the court will require sworn declarations from administration officials, compelling them to attest under penalty of perjury to their role in the deportation decisions. Should those declarations prove insufficient to elicit compliance, the judge has authorized depositions, formal examinations of witnesses under oath outside the courtroom, and live hearings within the federal courthouse, where officials may be examined and cross-examined. The next escalation entails referral of contempt charges to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Demonstrating the breadth of his authority, Judge Boasberg further stipulated that, if the department declines to prosecute, he will appoint an outside prosecutor to pursue the charges. Together, these tools create a robust framework designed to pressure the administration to respect judicial authority. Beyond the immediate case, legal analysts emphasize the broader constitutional implications. Judge Boasberg's willingness to enforce contempt proceedings illustrates the vitality of the separation of powers and the concept of atmospheric precedent, a term denoting the influence the high-profile ruling can exert on other judges. Federal jurists who may feel reluctant to challenge executive actions could draw confidence from this example, reinforcing the principle that no branch is above the law. The opinion underscores the judiciary's capacity to act as a check on the executive, ensuring that individual rights and due process obligations are not subjugated to political expediency. Looking ahead, the court has delineated a clear path for the Trump administration to purge the contempt finding. Immediate cessation of deportations in defiance of court orders and the reinstatement of the 200 to 300 Venezuelan immigrants to U.S. territory, thereby restoring their access to legal proceedings. If the administration chooses compliance, the contempt matter may be resolved without further judicial action. However, should the defiance persist, the court has pledged to identify and name the specific officials responsible for the violations, and as the calendar advances, the implementation of these measures and any ensuing appeals will test the resilience of legal checks and balances. The coming days will reveal whether the administration elects compliance or challenges the court's mandate, and whether the judiciary retains the means to enforce its orders effectively.